So here we are, the second edition of Aloha Fridays.
Aloha Fridays.
One and only Skyler Stokes. And
And Chad Boyson.
so what's going on today, buddy? Let's jump right into it again. We were talking before this. You had some good stuff to say.
I did, but first and foremost, it wouldn't be Aloha Friday without a beer.
Ooh,
So today I
I'll
got
have to,
I
I'll
got
have to run to the fridge in a minute. I forgot my Aloha shirt.
Yeah, you look good. You look good.
Yeah,
It's just
man,
but you would look better with a
what kind
beer
of
in
beer
your
you
hand.
got there?
It's Sierra Nevada. I think it's a 3-weight session IPA.
Lovely.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna
Keep
crack it
the
open.
Aloha
Whoa.
vibe alive.
Yeah, there we go. How was your week, dude? What's been going on?
Just trying to stay busy, trying to get creative with marketing as we kind of touched on last week.
Yeah.
One of the main things I talked about and that was on my mind is trying to properly market people's homes amidst the global pandemic. It's not always easy. We can't do everything that we were usually able to do, but like I said, we're seeing it change day by day, and every single day I get an email from someone at Compass that says, hey, here's the new rules, and they were different from yesterday, they were different from the day before. And so it's just ever evolving and ever changing, and just trying to stay on top of it and, keep these houses going. I got one of my luxury listings went pending, so happy for that. It's
Nice.
been a little bit of a long uphill battle, but we got some good buyers in place, and it's looking pretty good so far. So
Cool.
fingers crossed that one will stay the course, and a couple others, one other active one, a couple others coming up, but just got to keep on doing what we can do to try to get them to move.
Yeah, for sure.
We're always going to need to
So
buy or sell.
where was that listing? Your
That's a
luxury
Rancho
listing.
Santa Fe in the
Okay,
Covenant.
nice.
Yeah.
It's not a too bad of a shabby, or let's see,
Uh,
not too shabby of a place to be.
right, right.
Um,
You were talking about the markets. I
yeah.
wanted to get some quick info out to everybody on like between last week and the week before and this week. Even I was playing golf yesterday for a little bit, and one of the guys was talking about how the markets were performing. What are you seeing, man? What's going on today that what's pertinent to this week, I guess, that's gone on since we talked last?
It's really interesting. Like, ever since we had the Corona crash, so I like to call it, in March, there's been I think I touched on it last week, but there's basically been decreasing volume, and while the market's kind of been going up and rallying. And basically what that means is there's less people that are in the market that are buying, but the market's going up. And the reason why is because a lot of these people who, like, after they saw the market crash, they wanted to get in, hoping to get, at least in the market so they could potentially participate in some of that upside. And so that's basically just been driving prices higher and higher. And in the last couple of days, the economic kind of indicators that the Federal Reserve sees, they basically came out and they said, hey, listen, like, it's not as rosy of a picture as most people are painting it to be. And so that kind of caused a little bit of a, whoa, what's going on now? And then on top of that, there's been some talk about how the coronavirus could potentially be something that isn't over. It's just, people are basically just investing on optimism. And so when people get scared thinking that the economy is going to shut down again, or we're not going to be economically as where we were before, then it makes people want to pull out. So that's what happened yesterday. Yesterday, I think the Dow dropped something like 1,800 points. It was like 6.9%.
Okay.
So it was quite a substantial drop. And I think, and then today the market went up 500 points, 560 points or something. So it's kind of just been like the seesaw battle between what people think is going to happen and what the data show. And I think in the next couple of weeks to months, we could see some more downward pressure, because just as it stands right now, there's so much uncertainty still with, businesses reopening across the country, and unemployment's still super high. I mean, yesterday we had something like, there's some couple million people filed for unemployment last week. So there's still, kind of problems with how things are looking economically. So market wise, I think it's wise just to, you know, have an idea of a strategy going into these sorts of events, you know, like
Okay.
when the market drops or when the market goes up, like obviously you want to participate in the upside because you're making money, and you don't want to participate on the downside because you're losing money. So having some sort of strategy between those two extremes is really important to kind of get to your long-term goals.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been interesting. I think, like I said, I think in the next couple of weeks to months, we're probably going to see some more downward pressure in the market. I mean, a lot of people that I look to for, I guess, wisdom in trading and investing, like Warren Buffett, right? He's just the greatest investor of all time. Um, his Berkshire Hathaway conglomerate's down something like 10% this year, or at least in the last 12 months.
Right.
And he's sitting on a record amount of cash. It's like $137 billion. And he hasn't invested in the market at all in the last couple of months because he doesn't see any value in where the market is. He's no value in the stocks.
That's
So yeah, it is interesting. And that kind of just like tells me, if the greatest investor of our time isn't investing in the market right now, there's probably the reason why.
right.
And I think I take that, and I also kind of dissect all the other parts of the economy and what's happening around the world. He's very much in that mind frame of, okay, I'm going to invest in the long term. So to buy one company and like if it's valuable, and then watch it grow. You know, but with a lot of what I try and kind of preach is diversify your portfolio so that you don't have those, you know, really massive drops. So,
Right.
yeah.
One thing I saw on the mortgage side today that was brought to my attention by my good friend Todd Pianin and my other good friend Mark Datnow, who are both really good lenders that work at guaranteed rate, was that the Fed has left the rate basically next to zero, keeping the interest rates for mortgages super low. So, I mean, I guess one thing that's kind of interesting to note is that the money is still going to be ridiculously cheap, and it's going to make it very, very easy for people to purchase homes if they haven't yet, or if they're thinking about doing it. In March, the first week of March, I thought, okay, there's no way the money will get cheaper than this ever, and it just might, you know, by a hair. And I mentioned this last week. A friend of mine just got a refi at 3.125%. I mean, that is historically ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
you can't get money that cheap. So if you're looking, I think the advice from the mortgage side, you know, that I would give is call Mark Datnow or any lender that you work with. And if you haven't refied in a while, it's probably a good time to look into that. Or if you are looking to purchase, the time is obviously getting better and better with as far as the cost of the money. So
100%. Yeah.
what they're doing with the pandemic going on and everything going on in the news. I think their goal is to try to keep things as healthy as possible despite what's going on.
For sure. Yeah. That like, so I follow the Fed closely, obviously, because it's part of investing and I guess just overall economics. And to your point, they said that they're going to keep rates low for at least another 2 years. So I think till the end of 2022 or beginning of 2022. So there's still like quite a ways of, or there's still like a good time frame.
Right. I'm actually going to pull up on my phone because I have the article that I got from them, and you're right. To show positive growth in 2021 and 2022.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pretty interesting.
Yeah, which is going to be great, right? Because if interest rates are low, then the idea is that all the money that the Federal Reserve is helping the United States economy out with, those dollars are going to be put into the hands of business owners to potentially, you know, try and start businesses again, kind of get the economy up and running again, hire more employees, that sort of thing. And I think that's kind of the idea behind them keeping rates low so that they can just stimulate the economy. That is in itself awesome for any homeowners or future homeowners who really want to buy a house or an investment property, because it allows them to, you know, get, just to your point, money super cheap. And over the long term, it's really beneficial for them to have lower rates than it is higher rates. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, man, for sure. For sure. So I got a question for you because this was something that someone asked me earlier this week. When it comes to like either buying or selling a property, what's like, where does someone start with that process? Do they reach out to an agent? Do they reach out to someone in particular? How does that whole thing work?
I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but you were kind of curious yourself about selling, and I think you were asking for a client. But I mean, ideally, you would consult with a broker or an agent that you know, like, and trust, and kind of go over. I mean, there's tons of things to go over during a listing presentation, from how your house presents to the public to pricing strategy. But yeah, the first thing you're going to want to do is probably meet with an agent. Sometimes people interview 2 or 3 agents, feel out who they think they will work best with, and kind of take it from there. But I think the 2 most important things to keep in mind as a seller are going to be presentation. How does your house present to the public? Is it messy inside? Are there yellow walls? Is there stuff that needs to be repaired? For example, staged homes sell faster for more money all the time, because when people walk in, they're like, oh my God, this house is beautiful. It doesn't have junk everywhere. So minimize the clutter, clean stuff up, fix things that need to be fixed. There's a big list, honestly, to go over that most agents will go over with you. That's obviously, I think, the number 2 most important thing. The number 1 most important thing is always pricing strategy. You have to price your home aggressively when selling, because the psychology of real estate pricing is a little bit different than if you're selling your used car out of the back of your yard. Price it for $1,000, you're hoping to get $500. It's really not like that in real estate. We almost always see the lower priced homes that are presented properly, that have a lot to offer, have multiple offers, driving the price up to where it should be or above. But that's a hard pill for sellers to swallow, because they're like, what do you mean price it lower than how much I want? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That is the best strategy. When you price it too high, you end up chasing the market down until you find the sweet spot. Showings, for example, once you are on the market, are always going to be your kind of barometer of if you're priced right. So if you're not getting any showings over the first 14 days, typically you're going to be priced too high. Or the first 30 days, say you have 5 showings, that means your price is going to be too high. You have to adjust the price. Unfortunately, a lot of agents are scared to take a listing, or I should say to not take a listing. They don't want to tell the seller the truth. They're like, okay, well, I'll just take it and deal with it. I'm guilty of this myself. I've done it before where, of course I want the listing, but I know that the seller's not willing to price it at a certain level. So I end up having to have these hard conversations with them throughout the process to try to find the sweet spot. Obviously, in a market like we're in today, it's a little bit trickier to gauge if you're priced properly, because it's the activity is sort of all over the board. The principle still remains, though. It's more or less still going to kind of work for any property that you put on the market, that barometer of pricing. So obviously the 2 things would be pricing and presentation.
Are there certain, me being a data nerd, right? I'm just like, oh, so what are the numbers like? Have there been any studies done on like what colors sell best or what colors present best when?
Yeah, I'm sure that there are. I'm not aware of any directly off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But obviously, I mean, when you look at a home that's been flipped, for example, or that's nicely staged, they're going to use a lot of neutral tones. You want to appeal to the masses.
Sure.
I've obviously listed houses with a seller that has yellow everywhere, canary yellow. And I said to the seller, I said, hey, no offense, but this paint color isn't really for everybody. And he had just painted the house inside.
Oh no.
Canary yellow. I'm like,
no.
But he gets offended because he just painted it and he loved the canary yellow. And I had to, nicely explain to him. So you do want to obviously try to appeal to the biggest group of people as possible. Neutral tones. Right now, the grays are really popular, and like the gray and white combo with some nice natural woods. I have a really good stager, Jess Tingle, the Staging Collective. She does almost all my stagings, and every time she stages a property, people walk in and they're like, "Oh my God, this place is beautiful." In fact, I'm certain that her staging has actually directly sold properties for me because they come in and see it, how it could look once their stuff is inside. It's a lot easier for people to wrap their head around versus a house that's not staged. It's empty, it's dark, it's cold, the paint's gray, you feel like you're in a prison, you know? So all that stuff is super important. And if you just think about the psychology of us as humans, you walk into a house, does it feel good to you when you walk in?
Yeah,
like,
it's got to feel like home. It's got
in there, or is it like, ooh, this place is creepy and it's dark and gross and cold and it smells like cat piss? Yeah, your house probably isn't going to smell. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
all these things are super important.
Interesting. What have you seen? Kind of going back to one of the questions I asked last week. What's the inventory like, or has it changed over the last week since we've talked?
I haven't checked on it closely this week, but it's still relatively low.
Yeah.
Considering, I think what we're going to see trending into the summer over the next 30 to 60 days will be more stuff coming on.
Yeah.
You know, every buyer that I'm talking to is typically in the boat of like, oh, you know, we've been looking for a while, we can't find it, or they've put in a couple offers on stuff and gotten beaten out. And some people have gotten the house against multiple offers, which I've also done recently too. So the multiple offers are always going to tell me that the inventory is low. And like I touched on last week, it's important to note that you're mostly going to see that in the affordable price ranges. The stuff that's way above like $1.2 million, and it obviously depends on what zip code you're in, is typically going to sit longer because there's just less people that can afford that. But for example, one I closed a few weeks ago in Mount Helix, there were 4 offers on it. It was $700,000. Single story, remodeled, amazing house. And there's just not that much inventory in that price range where people have the option to pick and choose yet, you know?
Yeah.
Just kind of a different strategy going in to a purchase situation when you're,
yeah, Pfeiffer, I don't know if she heard something. Can you hold on 1 second, buddy? Thanks, hold on. All right, dude. So looking forward into the summer, what are some things that people can do to either, like when it comes to if they're considering either buying or selling, what would you recommend they do as we sort of start to get into one of the busiest times of the year, I guess, for real estate, right?
Okay. I mean, I think I'll touch on the buyers right now because we kind of talked about
the sellers,
already. I think what's important, I just talked to a new buyer yesterday that was referred to me, and he kind of was like, oh, I've been looking for 2 years and I haven't found what I wanted, and you know, I'm kind of all over the place. I think it's really important to kind of do your own research early on when you meet with an agent, or when you know you're about to meet with an agent, and determine the areas, because I meet a lot of people that are like, well, we kind of like this area and we kind of like that area, but we'll also do this. I mean, what I tell people to do when I first get buyers looking at houses is I say, okay, let's formulate our list. I get them set up on a search or however we determine it's the best way for them to find the properties. And I always tell them to do a drive-by. You know, if you have 10 properties that you like and you drive by all 10, you'll probably narrow it down to 6 that you actually want to see the inside of, maybe even 5.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, and then people will say, oh, you know what, we originally thought we liked this neighborhood of San Marcos, for example, but after we drove by, we realized that there were power lines behind and there was a noisy road below. And yeah, you can kind of see that on the map, on the MLS or whatever third-party website you're using.
But you're not going to get it until you like drive right by
it. It saves a lot of time. And I say, hey, after work, maybe go drive by these 2 or 3 houses.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I tell all buyers to do. Obviously, if you're thinking about buying, as we discussed earlier, it's a super good time because the interest rates are going to be ridiculous.
Right.
Call your lender or get a hold of me or you or whoever, and I'll refer a lender to you that I know works well. Obviously, Mark that now Guaranteed Rate, who I think we can have on this chat, Aloha Fridays next week.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
Talk on that stuff. But
yeah.
There's lots of valuable resources out there that people can kind of be prepared, because sometimes people find it could be the first house they ever see and they love it and they buy it. But you don't want to get caught flat-footed in a market where the inventory is still low, like we mentioned, and there's multiple offers. Because if you're flat-footed and you're against 3 other offers, chances are you're going to get beat out and you're going to have your little heart broken, and we're going to have to keep on looking for other houses.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be prepared, do your drive-bys, get your pre-approval ready, fill out the application online with whatever lender you decide to use. And, you know, that's pretty much it on the buy side.
Mm-hmm.
What about from your standpoint,
Yeah.
investment standpoint, or, you know, getting prepared for retirement or whatever it is, whatever stage of life you're in? What do you think coming into, you know, June, July, August? What do you say? What do you think people should be doing?
Man, that's a loaded question. Yeah, it is dependent on obviously like where the individuals are in their life cycle. Like I said before, I think that we're still in a pretty uncertain environment when it comes to the market,
Right.
and just making sure that you have at least, you know, you've diversified enough to a point where you're not going to subject yourself to all the market losses, right? Like a lot of people end up thinking that, well, I have this 401k, and in this 401k, I've got this target date fund or this like retirement date fund. And so I'm going to put my money in there and just kind of like let it go, set it and forget it. The same thing with like the S&P 500. And just I was kind of talking about last week, S&P 500 is 500 companies. It's all equities. And the index basically is supposed to be representative of the entire, you know, United States economy. Problem is when you invest all of your money in stocks, if stocks go down, then your entire portfolio goes down. So kind of just balancing between at least a little bit of equities and stocks and then potentially some bonds or whatever it is, right? There's just like there's no like magic kind of mix, so to speak. But I think at the end of the day, just making sure that you have some sort of diversified portfolio instead of, you know, having all your money be in stocks. I think that's kind of just where I would say the next couple of months should be. If you're going to focus on something, just focus on maybe breaking that up a little bit. Like I said,
Call your financial advisor.
Yeah, your financial planner, financial advisor. Yeah, I would. That's what I would probably say the most is just diversify. Just there's so much uncertainty, man, and the last thing I want is for people to be really excited about how this market's come back, and everyone's been talking about, oh my gosh, like my portfolio is almost to where it was, right? And then the market drops again. They're like, oh great, I can start all over again. So that's kind of what I was mentioning. It's just kind of making less ups and downs. So
Waves, more like small ripples.
The way I like to describe it is like, you don't want Neapolitan ice cream. You just kind of want vanilla, right? Just like make it nice and clean. And you can sprinkle a little bit of like chocolate or some sprinkles on there or whatever, but you just don't want to have like all these different layers in the market that you have to deal with. So yeah. Well, that's it.
Everybody, thanks for watching. Since Skyler has a beer already, I think I need to go grab one and make it a true Aloha Friday. You got anything else? Are we good?
That's it for me. Thanks so much, you guys. Really appreciate it. Aloha. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, brother.
Later.
See you.